You are spending thousands of dollars on protein powders, recovery supplements, and vitamin packs, and you are still exhausted, still inflamed, still waking up feeling like your body is fighting a war it never agreed to enter. What if everything you've been sold about recovery was engineered to keep you dependent on a system that profits from your fatigue? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Thousands of years before sports science, before pharmaceutical patents, before influencer supplement stacks, ancient healers from China, Egypt, the Amazon, and the Indian subcontinent were pulling plants from the ground and producing what modern clinical trials are now calling some of the most potent recovery compounds ever identified in nature. This is a mythology. This is biochemistry. And the roots these civilizations use daily are the same roots that researchers at leading universities are studying right now. Stay with us, because number 12 on this list contains an adaptogenic compound so structurally unique that scientists have spent 2 decades trying to synthesize in a lab and failed. And number 20? It was buried with Egyptian pharaohs as a gift for the afterlife. These are the 20 ancient root plants that will make you recover instantly. Turmeric, curcuma longa, the golden root of the gods. For over 4,000 years, Ayurvedic practitioners refer to turmeric as Haridra, the one who makes everything gold. Warriors in ancient India rubbed it into wounds before battle. Priests burned it in temples, believing it smoked purified blood. But here's what the priests couldn't have known. Turmeric's root contains curcumin, a polyphenol that clinical research has associated with the inhibition of NF-kappa B, one of the primary molecular switches that triggers systemic inflammation. A 2021 meta-analysis in the Journal of Medicinal Food found curcumin supplementation significantly reduced circulating levels of interleukin-6, a key inflammatory cytokine. Add black pepper to activate absorption by up to 2,000%. Ashwagandha, Withania somnifera, the strength of a horse. Ancient Sanskrit texts called this root ashwagandha, the smell of a horse, not as an insult, but as a promise. Consume this root, the Charaka Samhita declared, and you will gain the endurance and vitality of a horse. Modern endocrinology has validated the metaphor. Ashwagandha root extract has been clinically demonstrated to reduce serum cortisol levels by up to 27% in chronically stressed adults, according to a double-blind, randomized controlled trial published in the Indian Journal of Psychological Medicine. Cortisol is a hormone that breaks muscle tissue and impairs sleep. Lower it, and recovery accelerates. Take a standardized root extract containing 5% withanolides daily. If you have gotten to this point in this video, it means you love the value in this video. Click on the subscribe button for more content like this. Ginger, Zingiber officinale, the universal medicine. The ancient Greeks kept ginger root wrapped in bread after feasts, not as a dessert, but as a digestive medicine. Arab traders considered it so valuable, they listed it alongside gold in merchant inventories. Modern pain science now explains exactly why ancient healers trusted it so completely. Gingerols and shogales, the active phenolic compounds in ginger root, have been shown to inhibit prostaglandin synthesis, which is the same biological pathway targeted by over-the-counter anti-inflammatory drugs. A randomized trial found that 2 grams of raw ginger powder daily significantly reduced exercise-induced muscle soreness over a 72-hour recovery period. Consume it fresh in tea or as a concentrated root powder. Maca lepidium fuel of the Inca Empire. At 14,000 feet above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, the Inca built an empire. They fed their soldiers maca root before long marches and high-altitude battles, and specifically withheld it from enemy soldiers after conquest, knowing it provided an incomparable physical edge. Maca root contained a unique class of compounds called macamides, which did not appear in any other known plant. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology associated maca supplementation with improved endurance performance and reduced subjective fatigue in trained male cyclists. It also supports healthy hormonal function by acting on the hypothalamic pituitary axis without directly raising hormone levels. Add raw maca powder to smoothies. Licorice root, Glycyrrhiza glabra, the sweetness that heals. Licorice root was found sealed inside Tutankhamun's tomb, packed alongside jewelry, weapons, and sacred oils. Egyptian physicians used it to treat everything from coughs to liver disease. Its active compound, glycyrrhizin, is 50 times sweeter than sugar and possesses extraordinary pharmacological properties. Research has associated glycyrrhizin with antiviral activity, anti-inflammatory modulation, and support for adrenal gland function, the glands responsible for your body's stress response and recovery signaling. Importantly, it inhibits the enzyme 11-beta-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase, which breaks down cortisol in tissue, effectively extending your body's natural recovery hormones. Use deglycyrrhizinated DGL, formed for safe, long-term supplementation. Valerian root Valeriana officinalis, the sleep architect. The ancient Romans called it fu, not a rude dismissal, but an acknowledgement of its powerful, earthy smell. Roman soldiers carried it on campaigns, using it to induce sleep before battle and reduce anxiety in its aftermath. Sleep is where recovery actually happens, where growth hormone surges, where muscle fiber repairs, where the brain clears metabolic waste to the lymphatic system. Valerian root has been associated with reduced sleep latency and improved sleep quality in multiple clinical studies, likely due to its valerianic acid content, which modulates GABA receptors in the brain, the same receptors targeted by pharmaceutical sleep aids. Taken 30 to 60 minutes before bed as a root extract or tea, it supports deep, restorative sleep. Ginseng Revisited. The root that has two secrets. We introduced a root family of adaptogens at the start of this journey, but we need to return to Panax ginseng now, because what most people know about it is only half the story. You've heard it boosts energy. What ancient Korean physicians knew, and what modern pharmacology is now confirming, is that ginseng's ginsenoside RG1 doesn't just stimulate, it actively promotes the proliferation of satellite cells, the muscle stem cells responsible for repairing damaged muscle fibers post-exercise. Not the root you knew, not just an energy root, a tissue regeneration root. A 2020 study in phytomedicine found that ginsenoside RG1 significantly accelerated skeletal muscle repair in a control model. This is the second layer of ginseng's power that ancient healers access intuitively, and science is only now mapping precisely. Dandelion root, Taraxacum officinale, the weed that heals livers. Every culture that encountered the dandelion called a weed, and then later reversed course and called it medicine. Native American tribes boiled dandelion root to treat kidney disease and digestive disorders. Traditional Chinese medicine classified it as a liver-cleansing herb for over 1,000 years. What they were observing empirically, we now understand molecularly. Dandelion root contains taraxacin and taraxacirin, bitter sesquiterpene lactones that stimulate bioproduction, supporting the liver's ability to process and eliminate metabolic waste. Recovery is not just muscular, it is chemical. A body congested with toxins cannot regenerate efficiently. Clinical research has also associated dandelion root extract with diuretic activity, helping the body excrete excess fluid and inflammatory byproducts. Drink it as a root tea daily. Astragalus membranaceus, the immortality root of China. In traditional Chinese medicine, astragalus root, called huang qi, was considered one of the supreme tonic herbs, reserved for strengthening the wei qi, the body's defensive vital energy. Emperors consumed it to resist disease and maintain vitality into old age. Modern immunology has begun to decode why. Astragalus polysaccharides, APS, have been shown to activate macrophages and natural killer cells, two frontline components of the innate immune system. More extraordinarily, a compound in astragalus root called cycloostragenol has been clinically studied for its potential to activate telomerase, the enzyme associated with telomere maintenance and cellular longevity. A fatigued immune system cannot support recovery. Astragalus root tea or standardized extract may help fortify the immune foundation. Recovery depends on burdock root, Archeum lapa, the blood purifier. Medieval European healers called burdock root a blood purifier, a term that sounds like folklore until you understand what they were observing. Patients who consumed burdock root regularly showed clearer skin, reduced swelling, and faster recovery from infections. The clinical mechanism lies in burdock's inulin content, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, combined with its archin and arctigin lignans, which have been associated with anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activity in peer-reviewed research. The gut microbiome is now understood to be a central regulator of systemic inflammation. A disrupted microbiome means amplified inflammation, slower healing, and prolonged fatigue. Burdock root, roasted and consumed as a tea or cooked as a vegetable as they do in Japan, directly feeds a microbial ecosystem that controls your recovery rate. Echinacea root, Echinacea purpurea, the Plains warrior's medicine. The Lakota, Cheyenne, and other Great Plains nations use echinacea root for everything from snake bites to respiratory infections to wound healing. It was one of the most widely used medicinal plants in 19th century North American medicine before pharmaceutical antibiotics systematically displaced it. What those healers understood was that echinacea root could mobilize the body's own defenses faster than any external treatment. Modern immunology has confirmed that echinacea's alkylamides bind to cannabinoid receptor type 2, CB2, the receptor on immune cells, modulating immune response without overstimulation. A 2015 Cochrane review associated echinacea preparations with a meaningful reduction in the duration and severity of common respiratory infections. At the first sign of physical breakdown, echinacea root extract provides a validated, research-supported immune mobilization signal. Rhodiola rosea, the compound scientists cannot replicate, the big reveal. Here is the root we promised you. High in the Siberian mountains and the Arctic plateaus of Scandinavia, where temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius and survival itself is a daily negotiation, a root grows that Viking warriors and Siberian shamans both independently discovered and guarded as a military and spiritual secret. Rhodiola rosea. Its active compound, salidroside, is so structurally unique and biologically intelligent that researchers at the University of California and Sweden's Karolinska Institute have spent decades attempting to fully synthesize its adaptogenic effects and cannot replicate them outside the plant. Clinical trials have associated rhodiola with reduced mental fatigue, improved physical endurance, and activation of the protein AMPK, the enzyme that governs cellular energy balance. No lab has built a superior version. Nature got here first. Chicory root, Cicorium indibus, the gut architect of ancient Rome. Roman legionnaires ate chicory root daily. Egyptian physicians prescribed it for liver and digestive complaints as far back as 4000 BCE. Medieval European peasants roasted and ground it as a coffee substitute during times of scarcity, and unwittingly protected their gut health in the process. Chicory root is the single richest dietary source of inulin-type fructans, comprising up to 41% of its dry weight. Inulin is the primary prebiotic fuel for Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus species, the bacterial strains most consistently associated with reduced systemic inflammation, improved nutrient absorption, and a regulated stress response via the gut-brain axis. Recovery without gut integrity is incomplete. Chicory root, taken as a tea or inulin supplement, builds a foundation that every other recovery process depends on. Turmeric, the second layer, retention bridge, 60% mark. We opened this list with turmeric, and most people know the curcumin story. But we need to return now, because what ancient Ayurvedic healers discovered about turmeric goes far beyond inflammation. They used turmeric root combined with ghee and black pepper in a preparation called Heridric shear. Turmeric boiled in warm milk with fat, specifically to accelerate recovery from bone fractures and joint injuries. They didn't know why fat was necessary. Modern pharmacokinetics does. Curcumin is lipophilic, meaning it requires dietary fat to be absorbed at clinically relevant level. Without fat, bioavailability is near zero. With fat, blood serum concentrations rise dramatically. The ancient formula was not ritual. It was precise pharmaceutical engineering, discovered 3,000 years before we had the tools to understand it. This is not the turmeric you think you know. Yellow dock root, Rumex crispus, the iron root. Fatigue is often misdiagnosed as overtraining when the root cause is iron deficiency anemia, a condition affecting hundreds of millions of people globally. Ancient herbalists across Europe and North America prescribed yellow dock root specifically for pale skin, exhaustion, and weakness, the clinical presentation of low iron. Yellow dock root contains oxalates that stimulate bioproduction and improve iron absorption from food in the digestive tract. It also provides a modest direct source of plant iron. For anyone whose recovery feels mysteriously stalled despite adequate training and sleep, yellow dock root's ability to support healthy iron absorption may address a nutritional bottleneck that supplements alone cannot resolve. Simmer the root into a decoction and consume before meal. Elecampane root, Inula helenium, the lung root of the ancients. According to Roman legend, elecampane grew from the tears of Helen of Troy, which is why its scientific name honors her. Ancient Romans, Greeks, and Chinese physicians all independently identified this root as a treatment for respiratory illness, fatigue, and digestive disorders. Its active compound, inulin, distinct from chicory's fructan inulin, forms a rich polysaccharide matrix in the root. But it also contains alanolactone and isolanolactone, sesquiterpene lactones with demonstrated antimicrobial and bronchodilatory properties in laboratory research. For athletes or individuals whose recovery is compromised by respiratory congestion, poor oxygen exchange, or chronic low-grade infection, elecampane root tea has been used as a respiratory support ally for over 2 millennia. Science is beginning to understand what ancient healers already knew. Sarsaparilla root, Smilax regilii, the tonic of explorers. Spanish conquistadors traveling through Central America in the 16th century observed indigenous populations using sarsaparilla root to treat exhaustion, skin diseases, and inflammatory conditions. They shipped it back to Europe, where it became one of the most traded medicinal commodities on the continent for over 200 years. Its active steroidal saponins, sarsapagenin and smilagenin, have been studied for their structural similarity to human steroid hormones. Research has associated these compounds with anti-inflammatory activity and potential support for healthy testosterone metabolism, which governs muscle repair and recovery signaling. The Victorian-era sarsaparilla tonic drink commercialized this root's reputation before the pharmaceutical industry quietly retired it. The root itself remains unchanged, and the science supporting it continues to develop. Beetroot beta vulgaris, the oxygen amplifier. Ancient Romans considered beetroot so valuable that they offered it to Apollo at the Oracle of Delphi. Roman physicians prescribed beetroots for fever, constipation, and blood enrichment. What they were observing was performance enhancement that modern sports physiology has now quantified precisely. Beetroot's extraordinarily high nitrate content, among the highest of any vegetable, is converted by oral bacteria into nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide dilates blood vessels, reduces the oxygen cost of exercise, and has been associated in clinical trials with improved endurance performance and faster post-exercise recovery. A landmark study from the University of Exeter found that beetroot juice consumption significantly extended time to exhaustion in cyclists. The ancients gave it to gods. Modern athletes drink it before competition. The root knew what it was doing all along. Valerian and passion flower root, the sleep protocol. Ancient Greco-Roman physicians combined valerian with other calming herbs, a practice that looks remarkably like modern sleep stack formulations sold at a premium today. Passion flower, whose root and aerial parts contain chrysin and flavone C glycosides, has been studied for anxiolytic and sleep-promoting effects operating through the same GBA pathway as valerian. A randomized, double-blind study found that passion flower extract significantly improved subjective sleep quality compared to placebo. Here is a fundamental recovery truth that most programs ignore. Not all sleep is created equal. Deep, slow-wave sleep is where human growth hormone secretion peaks, where tissue is rebuilt at the cellular level. Without pharmacologically meaningful deep sleep, no training protocol, no protein intake, and no supplement stack fully works. This two-root combination has been supporting deep sleep for over 2,000 years. Frankincense root, Boswellia serrata, buried with pharaohs, the grand finale. Egyptian pharaohs were buried with it. The Magi carried it as a gift worthy of a king. Ancient Ayurvedic physicians called it shalaki and used it to treat what we now understand to be arthritis, asthma, and inflammatory bowel disease. Boswellia serrata's root and resin contain boswellic acids, specifically AKBA3, O-acetyl-11-keto beta-boswellic acid, which have been clinically shown to selectively inhibit the enzyme 5 lipoxygenase, which drives the leukotriene inflammatory cascade. Unlike NSAIDs, which broadly suppress prostaglandins and carry gastrointestinal risk, AKBA is molecularly precise. Multiple randomized controlled trials have associated Boswellia extract with significant reductions in joint pain, improved mobility, and reduced inflammatory markers. The pharaohs didn't bury it for decoration. They believed it would heal them in the next life. It has been healing this one for thousands of years. Here is what every one of these 20 roots tells us, collectively, about the history of human knowledge. The people who discovered these plants were not primitive. They were meticulous. They were empirical scientists operating without microscopes, testing, observing, recording across generations, and building a pharmacopoeia of recovery knowledge that was so accurate that modern clinical trials keep arriving at the same conclusions centuries later. They were not guessing. They were watching. And what they watched was this. The earth provides exactly what the human body needs to repair itself, if you know where to look. The modern world did not improve on this knowledge. In many cases, it buried it under patent law and profit margins. But the roots remained. They are still in the ground. They are still producing the same compounds. And your body still recognizes every one of them. You were always meant to recover. These roots simply remind your body how. Now, before you leave, I need to know which of these 20 roots surprised you the most. Drop the number in the comments below. Was it number 12, the root scientists cannot replicate? Was it number 20, the one buried with pharaohs? Or was it one of the everyday roots you've walked past your whole life without ever knowing what it could do? Your comment doesn't just help us know what to cover next. It signals to the algorithm that this information matters and should reach more people who need it. If this video gave you something real today, a new perspective, a tool for your recovery, a thread worth pulling, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. We go deeper every week into the ancient knowledge that the modern world quietly shelved. The body wants to heal. Give it the right roots and it will. We'll see you in the next one.